There are those in this world who can naturally be in a state of peace and love that can transform the livelihoods of all hearts naturally. And there are many beings that look at that and go, how do I get some of that? And the beings that want that, do you want to know what's in the way of that natural radiance? It's called my understanding. Anytime you have a debate or a conflict with someone, what's the point of contention? You might say, well, it's my understanding. Ah, there's the conflict, do you see? My understanding is always where the problem is. In a world where we're still not necessarily on a global level fully embracing the gift of diversity, because some expressions of diversity rub up against what people call my understanding. And when you are in a mental domain called my understanding, there's a belief that there's something that's right and there's something that's wrong. Now, there is something that's right and something that's wrong only for you. That's called your character. Each of us have a moral code to determine what's right and wrong for us. But to imagine that what's right and wrong for you is equally the same right and wrong for others, well, that oversight is created by something called my understanding. Anytime you have something called my understanding, you either have something you're afraid to forget knowing, as if I don't keep remembering these words, I'm not going to be in this groovy spiritual state anymore. Or something called my understanding is what you try to sell to people whom you're trying to uplift and transform. And then when other people don't resonate with your understanding, they can be judged as they just don't get it yet. When in fact the only one who doesn't actually get it is the one who has an understanding to sell or defend or maintain. My understanding is what goes, and what remains is love. Love is the only understanding. It can only be demonstrated. Demonstrating love is the only understanding of it. You cannot explain love like dance choreography. Okay, here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to put my right arm here. You put your left arm. It's not a dance. Love just engages, and it doesn't explain itself. And understanding has everything to lose, has so much to maintain and keep straight. And the one thing that understanding can't do, that love can, is engage with anyone. And isn't that the benchmark of a mature spiritual being? Not what you know, not even what you've experienced. What is the quality of your engagement with any person? Can you meet everyone where they're at and not wedge spiritual pretense between two hearts? Can you stand in the presence of someone who insults your character, breathe it in, and say thank you? Do you know who can't do that? Those who have something called my understanding. My understanding is what you wake up out of. And what helps you wake up out of something called my understanding is love. So for those of you that have known how I teach, you know that I often teach that we come together and we learn to become the ones who recognize that the patterns of emotions that we feel in our bodies that often are triggered in our everyday lives in the most frustrating and inconvenient of moments. Not sure it's ever happened to you. Maybe you knew someone it happened to. And every time an emotion comes up, it's like a reminder of an emotion from your past history where you felt this emotion but weren't loved and supported by those from your past the way you hoped to be. And the invitation of love is to recognize the emotion and say, can I be the one that gives myself the love and support that I didn't receive before? And that process of what I call loving what arises unravels attachments and dependencies on the only barrier to clarity, and that's called my understanding. If there's too much understanding, even the invitation to love your heart will almost seem foolish or silly or cheesy. Why am I doing this? Love my heart. I have way too much understanding for this. I'm far too brilliant to love my heart and to transform all of existence with the power of my love. I'm way too wise for this. At a certain stage of your development, that's where you find the biggest BS in existence, is understanding, because it gets in the way of everything. Because anything you understand, all you got to do is be in the presence of someone who understands it differently, and we have a friendly debate that can turn into a shouting match real quick. It just depends on how passive-aggressive people want to be. Someone who has understanding to defend engages with love. Here's my understanding. That's nice. Thank you for sharing. I love you. And that stops real quick. Because when you get onto love as the eternal invitation into awakening the light of existence within you, what you're asked to hand over, what you're asked as a way of lightening the load so your heart can burst open and feel safe, is your understanding. What's the cover charge to get into the nightclub in heaven? It's called your understanding. Many people knocking on the door of heaven. Please, God, let me in. Oh, you can come into heaven. Okay. Anything you want. Oh, anything? Okay, I would like your understanding. Oh. But God, if I give you my understanding, how will I be? Oh, I don't know. That's the game, though. And what gives you the courage to actually understand the intelligent nuances of a spiritual journey way beyond the confines of understanding is love. And there are many who have received this invitation I've given to practice loving themselves. And then what happens is that oftentimes loving yourself either becomes something on your spiritual to-do list, or it becomes something that you remind yourself that you should do more often and becomes another reason to feel bad about yourself. Sound familiar? So someone in my position has to keep redefining the teaching and breaking it down into smaller pieces. We all know that love is what frees you from the grip of understanding. Even though when you awaken in consciousness, there are many understandings, and they're all beautiful, they're wonderful. I could talk all day about the understandings I've had throughout my life. But I will also tell you that the highest level of understanding is the absence of all understanding. The highest understanding is no understanding at all. And that's what's so strange about this. And the only difference between immortality and ignorance is there are those who don't understand what they don't understand. And there are those that know there's nothing to understand. And those two people are the same and worlds apart. It's very strange. It's like you start your journey not knowing anything, and you end your journey realizing why you didn't know anything. And everything you learned through the whole journey is what you keep waking up out of. And in the end, you wind up with the exact same you had in the beginning. Nothing, but now you know why. And if you're lucky, what you'll end up with is a heart overflowing with love and not understanding at all. Because understanding is the seed of conflict. Understanding is the instigator of mania. Understanding is what festers in minds and creates mental illness. Love is what resolves it all. And for those of us that have had some really blockbuster understandings, if you think the understandings you've had have served you well, try living without them. It's delicious. Next time someone cuts you off in traffic, try not understanding why it happened. You'll be in the greatest state of peace. I have no idea why that just happened. Next time someone yells at you, I have no idea why this is happening right now. Peace, just like that. People who want to be in peace think they know. Oh, I know why they're yelling at me, and here's going to be why they're not at peace. All you have to do is not understand why it's happening, and it's a very open, innocent experience. Again, a lot of things I teach are backdoor approaches to everything, because a lot of you have heard it all. So I've got to flip it upside down to show you something different. Dare to not know why anything happens, and your life will be amazing. And just see that what is causing your life to be so painful is not the things that are happening, but the reasons you think it's happening. Even if you say, I don't know why things are happening, but I think there's a reason and I'm going to figure it out, whoa, there's the problem. But if you sat with, I don't know why this is happening, a lot more fun. Because everything in your life is going to happen. Your consciousness doesn't determine the outcomes of your journey. That's already set into motion by your fate. But your freedom of will determines the quality of your experience. You're going to have a good time or a not so good time. You're going to have a heart-centered time or a fearful time. And it all depends on your attachment and dependency to understanding. And what frees you from that existential addiction to understanding is self-love.